Howdy. Hey, let's go. Let's go. Hey, you guys, please forgive me. I caught a little something yesterday, a little nasally. Came down with something, spoke with the doctor today, assured me I'm not contagious, all good, not COVID, had that at Christmas. But and when that first happened, like when it jumped up on me, I don't know if you've ever felt this way, but I'm like, man, I do not have time to get sick. You know, there's I got breakaway tomorrow. I got this speaking engagement over the weekend. I got Sundays, got meetings. I do not have time. It's a busy time. I do not have time to get sick. And it's kind of the beginning of the year is a crazy season in ministry because you do a lot of planning. And on Mondays, I have my management meeting. So I show up on Monday to go to that management meeting, and I choose a word at the beginning of every year for myself. And my word this year, between you and I, as a secret, is encouragement. And so working on encouraging people, because great leaders are great encouragers. And so I'm sitting in my car as I'm about to walk into this meeting with the guys that I work with, and I'm just thinking, I want to encourage them. I'm going through my mind, I'm thinking of each of them by name, like here's the encouragement that I want to give to them, and this is what I'm going to say, and this is what they do well. And then my mind drifts to all the things that I have to do. Got to write this sermon. I've got to go to that meeting after this meeting. I need to pay that bill. You know, I need to read that chapter in the book that's due today. Oh, I got to write that book. The deadline's coming, and all of these things start flooding my mind. And then the encouragement drifts. And I have this thought, I go, busyness is the enemy of encouragement. Busyness is the enemy of encouragement. And I thought, oh, well, that's a word from the Lord. I'm gonna walk into this meeting, sit down with these guys, and I'm gonna encourage them with that busyness is the enemy of encouragement. And so I sit down with them and I just say that. I say, hey guys, here's what God is teaching me today, and I just wanna share it with you. Busyness is the enemy of encouragement. And one of the guys speaks up and he says, hey, think about all the things you could put in the blank there. And I said, what do you mean? He goes, busyness is the enemy of blank. You could put so much there. What would you put there? Busyness is the enemy. This is a dialogue part. Intimacy. Busyness is the enemy of intimacy. What?
Peace.
Busyness is like when my heart feels chaotic and I'm running from one thing to the next. Peace is evasive. Intimacy is evasive. Busyness is the enemy of
Joy.
Busyness is the enemy of joy. I don't feel happy. I'm stressed. And when I'm stressed, I'm not kind. Busyness is the enemy of what?
Love.
Wow. Love, evidently. Busyness is the enemy of love. Because if you think about it, right? I don't like myself when I'm busy. That's what I've learned. Like my marriage to my sweet wife, Monica, it doesn't go well when I'm running from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. I'm not a good dad when I'm busy, running from one thing to the next, to the next, to the next. And so I got lost in all the things that I had going on, but I was just kind of thinking about you guys, right? Life is really full and we have limited time, and so I just kind of jotted these down. I thought about, here's some of the stuff that you have going on. You have class. Maybe you have work, maybe you have a job or practices. The family, you gotta prioritize family. Maybe it's formals that you are getting ready for or going to, or tests that you have to take, or maybe it's events or meetings or intramurals or games, volunteering, group projects, friends that you have to maintain relationships with, dating, maybe that's kind of crept into your life and takes a lot of time, making plans, breakaway, church, and it can feel like church is just adding all of this other stuff to do. Because then you go to church and they're like, hey, we want you to serve. Would you stand at the door? Would you greet somebody? Or maybe you're an usher, or maybe you do this. But if you're gonna show up, man, let's do the work. And then what about this in between the weeks? And can you help out with kids ministry? And it just feels so busy. The calendar's really full. Maybe you grab one of those. Like I didn't even go social media, like keeping up with the news, current events, learning the latest TikTok dance. I didn't even go there. Right? What are you busy doing? What's taking your time? When I'm busy, I feel like a victim. It feels like something happened to me, and I want sympathy from you. But here's the deal. I didn't get cancer. I just didn't manage my time well. It's not that something happened to me. It's that I added too much. I didn't say no enough. I put too much in the limited amount of time that we have. Everybody's like, there's not enough time. I don't have enough time. There's not enough time in the day. There's the same amount of time in the day that's always been there. And each one of us, every beating heart in this room, every pair of ears that can hear me has the exact same amount of time in any given day. And it's ours to manage, and we can't blame anyone else when we're busy. Busyness is something that the devil, you just got to understand my theology. There's an accuser, he hates you. He doesn't want you to spend time with Jesus. He's not real thrilled that you're here this evening. He'd much rather have you in the bar, the club. He'd much rather having you at some makeout session. He's not super thrilled that you're here. And busyness is his tool to pull you out of an intimate relationship with Jesus. It's your justification for not getting a quiet time, not spending enough time in prayer, not sharing the gospel, not belonging to a church, not serving. It's because you're busy. And I've heard busy is an acronym for being under Satan's yoke. It's a little cheesy, slightly cliche, a platitude, but it's helpful to me because it frames up that it's a tool that the enemy uses, being under Satan's yoke. And so that's what I want to talk with you about for just a few minutes, is busyness being an enemy. Busyness being an enemy to you. I'm going to be in Luke chapter 10 if you want to turn there. You can go there on your phones. If you brought a Bible like this, you can turn to the New Testament, Matthew, Mark, Luke, third book in the New Testament, the Gospel of Luke. Chapter 10. What's happening in this chapter? Jesus sends out the 72. The Good Samaritan, if you're familiar with that story, it's in here as well. I don't think that's an accident. And then there's a literal account of Jesus interacting with some friends. He goes over to a friend's house, and that's where we're going to zoom in right here at verse 38. As we move through this passage, we're going to look at three effects of busyness, three things, really four, that busyness is the enemy of. Verse 38. As Jesus and his disciples were on their way, he came to a village where a woman named Martha opened her home to him. She had a sister called Mary who sat at the Lord's feet listening to what he said. But Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me!" Exclamation point. "Martha, Martha," the Lord answered, "you're worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken away from her." There's a story. That's what it will be. Let's unpack it. Before I further address the topic of busyness, let me just explain to you some things that are happening in this passage, some observations, if you will. First of all, Jesus had friends. That's cool, right? Like he's hanging out with some friends of his. He goes over to their house. These women, Mary and Martha, and they have a brother we know from the scriptures named Lazarus. It's a sibling group, and they're Jesus's friends. This is different than the apostles. This is different than future elders of churches. Like these are just friends of Jesus that he's hanging out with. The second thing I want to bring your attention to is that these women were ministering to Jesus. In fact, almost any time in the Gospels you see someone ministering to Jesus, it's usually women or angels, almost always. So there's this question today, can women be ministers? I don't know if you've heard that question. I'll answer it for you. Any follower of Jesus Christ is, when they are filled with the Holy Spirit, they become a minister. Not just when you talk on this stage, but a minister. To define it, because we've made it something it was never meant to be. That word, a minister, it just means to meet the needs of people around you. That's what it is to do ministry, to meet the needs of people around you. In this passage, Jesus needed a place to stay, a place to sit, a place to teach. And he's ministering while he's being ministered to. And the reason I say that about women, because when it says that Mary sat at the Lord's feet, it was a controversial thing to do. It's not like she just found a place to sit there. That's an observation that means something. See, in this day and age, you wouldn't say like where you went to college or hang your diploma on the wall. You would talk about whose feet you sat under. A rabbi would inspect you, and if they found you worthy to be taught or ministered to, they would make you their disciple, and you would sit at the honorable place of their feet as they taught. So that's what's happening in this text. So you wouldn't be like, I went to the great Texas A&M University. That was disappointing, I'm gonna be honest, okay? I was expecting more crowd participation on that. You would say, I learned under Timothy Atik. It's like the Paul, as he writes in Acts, he says, I learned under Gamaliel. Like that was your resume, if you were. This is who I learned from. And the reason I say that is because this text doesn't present the dichotomy of Martha's busy doing all the things and Mary's playing Nintendo Switch. Like, she's like not just hanging out. She's not doing nothing, you know. She's learning from Jesus. That's the dichotomy that this passage presents to you. Doing busy work or spending time intentionally learning from Christ. Those are the options here. So let's talk about busyness. To recap, 3 people. Jesus comes to the home of Martha. She's busy making preparations. Her sister Mary is also there. She's sitting at Jesus' feet. You guys know Martha, okay? Martha's one wing too. She owns her home, balling out of control. That's what the Greek says, balling out of control. There she is, making all the preparations in her home. Martha, straight A student, okay, summa cum laude. She's the president of her sorority, the real go-getter. She showed up here to Texas A&M. She walked around and just said, what all can I take on? Because I really want to experience the full college life. So she's just getting after it. All right, Mary, on the other hand, she's a 4. Little flighty, okay? She's artsy. Mary tells you, she's going to go to the movies with you. She might. That's what that means. She might be there. You never really know with her, okay? She's the one that's just kind of sitting there. She's got her AirPods in, listening to breakaway worship. The Bible's open. She has her highlighters, but she's drawing pictures with them. That's Mary. And so Martha goes to Jesus and says, man, would you just tell her what's up? And the worst thing, like the only thing I can think of that's worse when you feel like you're doing all the work is you tell on somebody and then the person you tell is like, oh no, they're actually doing what is better. Man, that's heavy, especially for a 1. They're like, man. Verse 40, Martha was distracted by all the preparations that had to be made. She was, what's the word? She was distracted. So my first point is busyness is the enemy of focus. Busyness is the enemy of focus. Jesus is going to call Martha to one thing at the end of these verses. The many things steal from the one thing. Verse 41, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. And Mary has chosen what is better. Let me set the scene in my house. We have this round table. It sits 5. There's 5 of us. Monica and I have 3 kids. There we are. We sit down. She's prepared a meal. It's there. We're all there. Hey, I'm just crushing it as a dad. I'm like, hey, let's hold hands and pray tonight. And like, if you're looking in my window, like, this is when I want you to see your pastor, okay? Because there we are, little house on the prayer. I mean, we're just like, okay, let's go. You know, who wants to do it? Oh, one of the kids, of course, because you guys are super spiritual. Go ahead. And then I'll hear this ding. What's that? Oh, it's my phone. Guys, excuse me for a minute. Let me just see what ding. Oh, so I don't know if it's a text message, an email, maybe a DM. You know, one of you hit me up just saying, hey, you got some question for that. Guys, I just need to check this real quick. Okay, it's okay. Let me grab my phone. Okay. Oh yeah. Wow, that is incredibly important. I'm so glad I checked this, guys, because it's like major pastor work. And so it's just good that I saw that. Okay, now I'm back with you, but I'm not back with you. Man, this up here, it's over there, and it's spinning. And why do we do this to the people we love the most? You went home for Christmas. You know how excited your mama was to see you at Christmas. She made all the preparations like Martha. And there you are. And the whole time you're there, I wonder if my friend's home too. Wonder if they, let me call them and see what I'm going to go out with them tonight. And your head's just running around. Oh, and I got it when I get back. And you're there, but you're not there because you're busy. And it's like we give the people we love the most the worst version of ourselves. What can only you do? This should be your focus. Don't let busyness pull you away from what only you can do. Don't let the many things distract you from the one. See, no one else can grow your relationship with Jesus. No one else can go to church for you or be involved in your church for you. No one else can be a child to your parents. And so what are the things that only you can do? And I want you to bring crystal clear, laser focus to that. You need to answer that question. What can only you do? Can I just tell you why I come? Anytime they call me, anytime Breakaway says, hey, will you come on a Tuesday night? It's an automatic yes. Can I tell you why? Because in my college years, my priorities were jacked. I wasn't studying the scriptures. I was looking at porn. I wasn't involved in a church and serving there and being equipped there. I was busy with my schoolwork trying to pass classes. I wasn't growing my relationship with Jesus. I was growing my relationship with some girl, right? And I look back on those years and I was wasted. See, maybe for some of you, you're the achiever. You're here and you're like, I'm Martha. You've already self-identified in your mind. That's me. And some of you, your busyness is self-inflicted addiction. Like a dog to his vomit, you return to the things that's killing you. And you've heard it before. You've been in this room and heard it before. You've heard me say it before. You've heard others say it before, but you can't stop. You're stuck in it. You're trapped in it. I can't yell loud enough, passionate enough. I don't have illustrations creative enough to bring you out of it. But before you get up from that seat, and I'm so serious, man, like take it from somebody who's been there, who today I've been married 17 years, but I got scars. And don't for a second think, well, it worked out for you. You're up here teaching us the Bible. I got scars, man. I have regrets. I would change the past if I could. And you don't realize the pain that you are inviting into your life, bringing up a chair to the table and asking Satan to sit in it and eat you for lunch. I want you to know Jesus, the one that is at the center of this story and really the center of this collection of 66 books, is the one who is eager to forgive you, and you don't need to perform for him. He just wants to know you and spend time with you. And can I tell you something crazy that doesn't even make sense to me? He's not even mad at you. 2 Corinthians 5 says he's no longer counting your sins against you. Romans 8:1 says there is now no condemnation for those who are in Christ. Micah tells us that God shows mercy for fun. He's not mad at you. Verse 40. She came to him and asked, "Lord, don't you care that my sister has left me to do the work by myself? Tell her to help me." She's a victim. Mary is against her. Jesus is against her. So she's blaming everyone else for her problems because busyness breeds a victim mentality. Whenever you feel busy, right, it's a zero-sum game. And you meet someone and they can either help you with your list or they can't. And if they can't, you don't have time for that. Ain't nobody got time for that. So you're just moving to the next because you want life to be efficient. You got to get stuff done. My second point, busyness is the enemy of empathy. Busyness is the enemy of empathy. Empathy takes time and there's no time. The story in this chapter is also, this story shares with another story, the Good Samaritan, who is about a person who's beat up on the side of the road, and the priest walks by and doesn't have time. And the Levites, these are the spiritual people, they walk by and they don't have time. They got places to be. But the Samaritan, that would be the enemy in the passage, clears their day and says, how can I prioritize this person's pain? How can I love them in this? Martha says, "Don't you care?" You ever feel that way? Like, I'm so busy, man. Don't you care? Does no one care that I'm busy? Can I answer that once and for all for the rest of your life? I'm going to give you the answer. Just so you know the answer to the question. Does anyone not care that I'm so busy? Here's the answer. Ready? No. Nobody cares. Because honestly, everybody knows it's your fault. You're the one that made you busy. So no, there's no sympathy in that. You made yourself busy. No one cares. I'm number one offender here because I can run from one meeting to the next, to the next. I'm 5 minutes late to every meeting. The other day, my buddy Bill calls me and he says, "Hey, do you have a minute to chat?" And I'm like, "I don't know, Bill." And this is a little bit weird, trigger warning. But I'm like, "I don't know, Bill. I haven't." And it's like 1 o'clock. And I go, "I don't know, I haven't had time. I've had to go to the bathroom since 8 a.m. I haven't had time to go," right? And I'm telling him, why am I telling him this? Because I think in my naivety, he's gonna be like, "Oh my goodness, that's terrible. You've been holding it since, I'm so sorry. You are so important, man. Gosh, you are incredibly important. You're just running from one thing to the next. That's amazing." But you know what he said? "Well, go to the bathroom." That's what he said. That's what I needed to hear. It's like, just go to the bathroom. Like, you can do it. You don't get empathy. "I'm so sorry. I'm busy." Bro, go to the bathroom. Here's what I got to tell you. Like somewhere in this journey, we've thought something is synonymous with busyness that's not, and I got to tell you what it is right now because we got to set the record straight this evening. I'm busy does not in any way translate to or mean in any way I'm important. We've thought that I'm busy means don't you know how important I am? It does not mean that, not at all, not even a little bit. No one actually thinks I'm busy means I'm important, except for the person who's saying it. We've been duped. Like everybody knows I'm busy does not in any way mean I'm important. You know what it actually means? Like if we were really gonna translate it, it means, you know what? I am a people pleaser and don't know how to say no. It means I'm busy means I don't know how to manage my own time. I never really learned how. I'm busy means, you know what? I've taken on too much and it's all a priority over you. Those are the things that it actually translates to. It does not in any way for the rest of your life at any time, no matter who you're talking to or where you're at, ever translate to I'm important. That's just not what it means. I can feel this way. Like I sit in my office and I'm writing a sermon and I hear the squad out there laughing and playing and making jokes. I'm like, don't they understand how hard I need to work? I'm a victim. Don't they get it? You feel like a victim and you feel sorry for yourself. Let me say this right here real quick. Important insertion. There may be one or two of you that this is relevant to, but it's worth it for the one or two of you. I'm not talking about when life throws you crazy curveball or circumstances of things that you can't carry by yourself, and they're gonna crush you. Now, there's some of you think I'm talking to you right there, and I'm not. I'm not talking about things you signed up for. I'm talking about diagnosis. I'm talking about death. I'm talking about extreme hardships. Those things, you raise your hand, not right now, but you raise your hand and you say, hey, I need help, and we're gonna come around you, because that's just the place this is. That's the kind of place this is. We're gonna be the church, your church will be the church, and we're gonna help you carry that burden in a season. But for the rest of us, this is a self-inflicted problem that has stolen our joy and our intimacy with Jesus. This is the college student who is chasing significance through signing up for all the things because they want the real college experience. And they become a lesser version than themselves. And you know, if I'm talking to you, you know your relationship with Jesus has suffered. It hasn't flourished in the time that it should flourish. You've put it on the back burner, and you think that's gonna be okay. And can I tell you, you said, man, how did you get stuck in so much sin in college? That was the counsel I got my first week as a freshman. I got really slammed and I called somebody and I just said, God feels so far. And they said, don't worry, when you finish college, you just kind of come back to him. It was the worst advice anybody could have given me. Because now I get to spend time with thousands of college students who I see doing it right, and I see how wrong I did it. Who's in charge of your schedule? You have to be. You have to be. There's no one else to blame. He says, verse 41, Martha, Martha, the Lord answered, you are worried and upset about many things. Worried and upset. My third and final point is busyness is the enemy of peace and joy. Busyness is the enemy of peace and joy. Because you sit in the what if. What if I don't get it all done? What if I don't get chosen? What if I don't pass the test? What if I don't finish the assignment? You know the greatest thing you can do with the what if? Answer it. Just answer the question. Well, what if I don't finish the assignment? If you don't finish the assignment, we're going to bring you up on stage and we're all going to take turns laughing at you, talking about how stupid you are. That's what we're going to do. We may throw things at you, right? I tell you, if you don't finish the assignment, you're going to fail the assignment. You fail the assignment, you're going to fail the class. And you fail the class, you're going to be homeless with no job on the street with a piece of cardboard begging people for food. That's what you think, though. Like we're kind of laughing, but some of you literally think that. You think that's where that goes. I mean, that escalated really quick. You don't finish the assignment? You talk to the teacher. You say, is there anything I can do? Talk to your prof. You take the class again. It's not what you wanted. You deal with some disappointment maybe from people you look up to. It's not the end of the world. I'm not encouraging anyone to be a slacker. I'm telling you, I don't want anything in your life to take priority over Jesus Christ. Nothing. Not anything. I don't want anything in your life to take priority over him. Good things can become bad things when they become ultimate things before him. Really, really good things become bad things when we put them in the place of ultimate things over Christ. I want that just to be a little bit of a pressure release. A long exhale. You're going to be okay. There's a lot of people that have done this before you. There's a lot of people that are coming after you. They'll do it after you. You're going to be okay. There's an endless list of things to do, and life is busy. So if you are simply thinking, I don't ever want to be busy, you're really setting yourself up for a life of frustration. Because you have to fill the time with something. And I'm just saying, make sure that you prioritize the ultimate thing. If you go over to the self-help section of the bookstore, and you're trying to find a solution for busyness, what everyone is going to prescribe to you is a word. It starts with an M. They'll say, oh, you just need to create some. Anybody know the word? What is it? Margin. You just need to create some margin. And margin can be helpful when life throws you curveballs and the schedule's not full and you can make time for a friend who just shows up out of nowhere. Margin's really helpful for the unexpected. But margin will not solve your busyness problem because margin is not sustainable. You have to fill the time with something. Like at some point, you have to get busy. And so I'm going to give you a different word. For the rest of your life, I think this word will help you. In fact, you can make it your word this year. It's prioritization. That's a better word than margin. You have to do things. Just make sure that a part of what you do is the main thing. Because if you think for a season, hey, I'm going to push out the quiet time and I'm going to push out the contemplative prayer, I'm going to push out church service and I'm going to push out community just for a season so that I can crank through this, you've made a really, really bad trade. You've made a bad trade. Martin Luther, responsible for the Protestant Reformation, said this: I have so much to do today that I'm going to need to spend 3 hours in prayer in order to be able to get it all done. There's something about spending time with God that's actually a multiplier. It gives you the strength that you need to deal with the things that are going to come your way. That's true. That's not just preacher talk. Like, I found that to be radically true in my own life. In verse 42 it says, but few things are needed, or indeed only one. Mary has chosen what is better, and it will not be taken from her. Listen, everyone here has a different capacity. All of you can take on a different amount of things, but don't choose the many things over the better thing. Do not choose the many things over the better thing. And some of us are so wrapped up in extracurricular activities. We've lost sight of sharing the gospel. We've invested in sports and school and fraternities and sororities, and we made a bad trade. And you think you don't have time. You think that's the issue. I don't have time. Unfortunately, you probably have an iPhone. And you can go over to your screen time. And it's going to show you how much time you had. If number one on there is Instagram, number two is TikTok, maybe the inverse. And number three is some silly game. And then you get to 6 and you see the Bible app. There's your evidence. You have time. You just used it poorly. Right? You just used it wrong. And so learn to say no. Can you guys just say it with me? No. No. Do you want to go to the movies? Do you want to go to the dance? Do you want to sign up for this really important thing? Do you want the Aggies to win? No, I'm just kidding. Yeah, all right, y'all, I couldn't even pull you guys off sides. I love it. Way to go. I love it, right? Know what you're going to commit to before you leave here in just a minute. I think we all think that we're going to be remembered for what we said yes to. Do you guys know the name? Anybody know the name Eric Little or Eric Liddell? Anybody heard that name? You have? Anybody else heard that name? Just by show of hands? Okay, you have. So several of you know that name. He was an athlete, a runner, made it to the Olympics, to the big stage, if you will. At his time, like this is the biggest event in the world. The whole world is watching, and it's his race. And he's anticipated to win by a large margin. He's the best there is. He's the fastest person on the planet at this particular race. But the race landed on Sunday, and as he followed his convictions, he said, I'm not going to run it because I prioritize the Lord's day. And those of you that raised your hand when I said, hey, do you know the name Eric Little or Eric Liddell? You don't know his name because of what he said yes to. We know him because of what he said no to. Some of you are going to be remembered not by what you said yes to, but by what you said no to. And that's not always bad. And sometimes that can be really, really good. You can tell all of your friends that Jesus is the most important thing to you. You can put it in your bio, and you can put it in your dating app, in your profile, and all the things you say, man, Jesus is my number one, my numero uno, me and the Jesus. He is everything. But if you don't show that with your time, you're living a lie. They're going to know. And then you just start contributing to what I think is the greatest evil in America today: counterfeit Christianity, consumeristic Christianity, convenient Christianity. And it's not real Christianity. And so show them by prioritizing Christ. In summary, busyness is the enemy of focus. It's a distraction. Busyness is the enemy of empathy. And busyness is the enemy of peace and joy. Take you over to this. It's a little visual that's been helpful to me, honestly. And so like this, the sand represents life's little interruptions. These are the things that you didn't anticipate. This is the ding. This is the DM, the text message. This is the do you want to hang out tonight? Hey, do you want to go see a movie? These are the little interruptions in life that you didn't see coming. These are things, assignments and classes. These are things that if you don't do them, there are consequences. Reasonable consequences, not the end of the world. But there are things that you need to do. They're important things. But the problem is, these are the big rocks. This is you being involved in a church under the authority of elders, serving there. Right? Prior to that, listen, this is you getting right with Jesus. Understanding that you're not going to get to heaven by any other means. Like, you're not going to go to heaven and God's going to say, hey, hold on, let me see your GPA. Show me what intramurals you were involved in. Hey, so how well did you do in your fraternity sorority? Were you the president? Were you council? What? That's not what he's going to ask. He's going to say, did you trust in my Son, Jesus Christ, his death and resurrection for the forgiveness of your sins? There's no other name by which we can be saved. Did you believe upon him? Did you call out? Did you say, Jesus, save me? I can't do it on my own. He doesn't need your performance. He needs your surrender. Doesn't fit. Right? But it really doesn't fit. Right? But if you put these rocks in, like The response to the gospel. And if you know the gospel, if you're hearing that, and you're like, I know, I've trusted in Christ, then you share the gospel. You spend time telling others about the gospel, right? You get involved in a church, you go there, you become a member there, you belong there, you serve there, right? You're all in. This is your spiritual disciplines. You're studying the word. You're spending time in prayer. You're fasting on occasion. You're sharing the gospel, like you're doing those things. You put those in first, right? And then these things that are important, right? Those go in next, but they're not the priority underneath those. Like that's the priority, right? And when you have that in place, it's the same amount of sand that's in there, right? These little interruptions, these other things that are going to come your way, the unavoidable things, you can't explain it. But it all fits. See, this represents time. It's how much time you have. And I can tell you, I've tried to do it by my own strength. I've been in seasons too busy to pray, too busy to study, too busy to serve, too busy to be involved in a church. And in those seasons, it's like a multiplier. I'm too busy. Like it doesn't help me. I'm stressed. I ended up going to the hospital. My heart started beating weird. You know what they prescribed? They're like, hey, you just need to start your day. This is a secular, unbelieving doctor said you need to start your day in meditation. I was like prayer? He's like, yeah, prayer will work. I'm like, oh, okay. All right, great. I'll do that. I started doing that. It changed my life. Like, this will change your life. Like, there's not a lot of times I say that this will change your life. You just do this. You put those big rocks in first, and everything's going to change. And at first, it's going to feel like you can't. But when you do that, everything's going to change. You're going to see all of a sudden you're magically getting it all done, but it's not magically. You just have help from the creator of the heavens and the earth.